First off, let me begin by saying thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Welcome back to another episode of Phil at the Movies. I'm your host, Phil Walsh, and this is episode number 116 of this ongoing podcast that is for the love of movies. As a reminder, if you have not done so already, I'd greatly appreciate a subscribe to the podcast as well as to the YouTube channel, if that's where you watch the show every week. That way you can stay plugged in to my philosophy, if you will, when it comes to movies. And if you could do so, please rate and review this podcast on Apple. It helps significantly with that pesky thing called the algorithm. We're fast approaching 10,000 downloads. Thank you very much in advance. So let's keep on that target and hit the goal. And on that note, I want to talk to you about a new movie that I watched last week. Perfect little segue with the word hit. And certainly this film was a hit for me. Little early pre-spoil review, if you will. But currently there is a new film on Netflix, and it is perhaps one of the darkest borderline comedies you'll see this year. And yet I hesitate to call it an outright comedy, just as I would hesitate to call it a thriller. There are laughs in this film, there is romance, there are two mesmerizing performances by the lead actors with pure and in sync and frankly off the charts chemistry. The movie is Hitman from director Richard Linklater, known for a number of popular and enduring films such as Dazed and Confused, the Before trilogy, and School of Rock. Now, Hitman stars Glen Powell and Adria Arjona, and as I said before, their chemistry is what really sells this whole film and makes it worthwhile from beginning to end. I mean, it's a great premise, but you really are invested in their two characters. Now, the premise of the film, Gary is a mild-mannered and slightly awkward college professor who just so happens to moonlight as a fake hitman, entrapping those who would seek to have someone taken out of the picture, so to speak. He dons a series of disguises and affects a myriad of personalities. He ends up finding some excitement in this second profession and what is otherwise a pedestrian life for him. He's already divorced. As I said, he's a mild-mannered professor, nothing really exciting going on in his life. Now, everything changes, of course, when he dons the disguise of Ron, another hitman for hire, and he meets the beautiful and scared Madison, played by Arnoa, and he comes in trying to steer her away from murdering her husband, or having her husband murdered, I should say. Gary ends up finding himself falling for this potential criminal in Madison, and ends up steering her, as I said, away from a murder for hire plot and ends up pursuing a relationship with her. Lines are blurred, and Gary finds himself in deeper waters as he tries to keep up the charade of his hitman persona, while Madison also plays footsies, not only with Ron, but with deception as well. Hitman is perfect and is the type of film where I went in expecting a different kind of movie, yet what is delivered is totally acceptable and thoroughly enjoyable. First off, the matching of Powell and Arnoa is sizzling. Their dynamic is one of the best I've seen in a movie like this in quite some time. They are actors clearly, but the chemistry is in the stratosphere. There is a sexiness to this movie, and frankly, that's something that is eluding a lot of more modern films in a way, particularly in this genre. The tension, the sexual tension, the dynamic of their relationship is palpable, and it works in selling this movie. And I think with another set of actors, maybe it would not have worked quite as well. And I think that's part of the reason why this film works so well for me. You just buy into their dynamic, and it really hits it home all the way through. Again, using the pardon the puns, if you will. Now, Hitman sort of threads the lines between outright comedy and what I would call a serious comedy, or more of a farcical comedy. While two different beasts, I did get a lot of Fletch vibes from this film, just in terms of the sort of the seriousness of the story, the disguises that Gary puts on throughout the film, in addition to sort of the clever antics and the undercurrent of a love story. And if you have seen the original Fletch starring Chevy Chase, you may know what I am referring to, because I mean, again, that is a comedy, but there is sort of an element of thrills and romance to that film as well. And I definitely picked up a vibe from watching Hitman and immediately thought of the first Fletch. But back to Hitman. This film commits itself to the setup, and I have expected it to pump the brakes. Gary is a fake hitman, but yet the movie goes full throttle as the stakes are elevated. And while I'm not going to divulge any spoilers, I applaud the film for not copping out in the third act. As I said, the movie rides or dies on the characters of Gary slash Ron and Madison and delivers a film that, while dubious in actuality, leaves the audience with both a smile and cheer at the very end. Frankly, it's a shame this film was relegated largely to Netflix because 10, 20 years ago, hell, even Glen Powell's last rom-com with Sydney Sweeney made a lot of money at the box office. And I think a film like this would have played exceptionally well at theaters. It did have a limited run, and from everyone that I've talked to who saw it on the big screen, gave it 2 thumbs up. And it's easy to see why. And again, not as a slight against Netflix, but this is the kind of film that I think would have had tremendous legs at the box office and gone on to be a massive hit, though it has generated tremendous buzz with its time on Netflix. The reviews to this film are largely positive, in audience reaction the same way. Now, I know it's not going to work for everyone, particularly, as I said, the film commits itself to the title in a way, but for me, I went in expecting a different movie and got something else entirely and was thoroughly entertained from start to finish. And there's a line in the movie where that Gary repeats often in the film, and it's all pie is good pie. And when he first meets Madison, he's at a diner and he's as Ron the hitman, and their first sort of interaction is him saying all pie is good pie, and that is the case with this film. All pie is good pie, and so too is the movie Hitman. Smart, funny, sexy, just a great film all the way through, and it really has a throwback to, like I said, those sort of larger than life rom-coms of a different era. There's thrills, there's suspense, it's thoroughly entertaining, and as I said before, the movie goes there in more ways than one. And again, just the direction by Richard Linklater, I don't think he gets enough credit as a director, because he has certainly done a number of successful and enduring films. Like I said, from Dazed and Confused, School of Rock, and the Before trilogy. This is another great notch on his belt, so to speak. But Hitman, it was a hit for me. Let me know what you think. Have you seen this film? Was it a hit for you, or was it more of a miss? Let me know in the comments. Let me know on social media. I may put out a poll question in the coming days, so that may be a chance for you to chime in with your thoughts on Hitman. But just to reiterate, all pie is good pie, and so too is the movie Hitman. So see it. I recommend it. It's currently on Netflix, and if you do have a chance to see it on the big screen, because I do know there are pockets playing throughout the country, I would definitely recommend seeing it, just from what I have been told from a number of credible and reliable sources that I would certainly take to the bank. This is a film that should be seen on the biggest screen imaginable. It definitely plays that way in terms of its scope and a grand vision, if you will. But that does it for me today, everybody. Want to thank you, as always, for tuning in and hearing what I have to say on movies. I'll be back next week, and we will certainly do this all over again for the love of movies.